Hi guys, it's Connie here from Say It With Simplicity, and today I'm going to be making this farmhouse placemat. I saw this idea in a Farmhouse magazine that I get. I get a couple of different ones, and so I didn't, when I tried to go back and find the issue that it was in, I didn't find it, but theirs was a fall version of this, and so I thought I'd try to recreate what I remember seeing, and I think that this turned out to be a kind of a fun project to do. And so it has this little Christmas tree down in the bottom corner, and that was created with a little stencil that I made on my Silhouette Cameo. And so you can see that there. And I'm going to be using this old Singer sewing machine to sew this in the video. And this is a Singer that my son picked up at a thrift store. It's, I think, a 1588. But the neat thing about it is it's a treadle sewing machine. And I just really love sewing on it because it's very relaxing to me. And this is an actual picture with the sun coming in the window. And I think if it had like an old style spool on the top, it would really make a neat poster or something for a craft room. But this is one of my favorite machines to sew on, and even though I have a brother that's all computerized and everything, I still like going back to this machine when I can. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm kind of folding this in, creasing it, and my one regret is that I sort of forgot to press it. I thought that it would be okay if I just kind of creased it with my fingers, but I think an iron would have been better. But what I really wanted to do was get that center point, and I'm just using my quilting ruler there to mark off some places where I'm going to put some tape for my grain sack stripe. And so here I'm just using some blue painter's tape. In the end, I really felt like this, I would have almost rather used masking tape, and I ended up switching over to masking tape because I ran out of the blue, but I really liked how the masking tape really held to the fabric better than this blue did, but it worked out okay in the end. So I started out with a stencil brush, and I'm just sort of painting the paint on, and this is just, I used the Waverly chalk paint because I was out of like an acrylic paint, but I think I would probably go ahead and go with an acrylic paint like an apple barrel or something. I think that it would just give it a little bit smoother appearance. But I start out with the stencil brush, and then I quickly switch to using a makeup sponge, and you'll kind of see here what I do, and then I have the makeup sponge, and then I go back to using the stencil brush again to kind of fill in. But I was having a rough time getting enough paint on there, and it's just maybe some of the different kind of paint would have made a difference in how smooth it went on. So now I can remove the tape, and you can see that it's pretty crisp there. There was one spot that I really felt like maybe it bled a little bit, but it's okay in the end. It's supposed to look rustic, and so I think it does. So now I just start marking off like about a 1/4 inch down from that, and I'm going to mask that area off, and I end up covering up, the middle of the grain sack stripe to get the top, if you can imagine what I'm saying, I guess, just get the top part of that line, and then I go back in and I do the bottom part of the line. So yeah, that other piece of tape, the top of it goes about a 1/4 inch away from the bottom part of the other masking tape, and it's kind of hard to see because of the the colors sort of blend in there. But then I just go in and I paint the rest of that stripe. And now I just sort of flip it around because it makes it a little bit easier to work with. And I'm going to go ahead and mark where I want my other stripe to begin and then start placing my tape on and painting. And this, video is adjusted with a little bit higher speed so that, I get through the video quickly. So it actually kind of took a while to get it all done, but now we're going to have the big reveal here and we're going to see how our grain sack stripe turned out. And did you ever feel like you don't have enough hands for something you're doing? That tape is pretty sticky, so. Now I'm just going to go ahead and go in here and I'm starting to make a little square for that little Christmas tree. And this is 3 by 3 inches. And I'm just cutting it here with my rotary cutter. And it's hard to cut with a rotary cutter when you're trying to do it for the camera because I kind of get a little bit off here and I end up going back to fix it. And now I'm just going to come in here with a pinking shears. This pinking shears is actually from a thrift store too, and it's a pretty heavy duty and a nice sharp one. And so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to trim off those sides to give it a little bit more of a old-fashioned look, I guess. And I'm all done and I'm going to just kind of try to eyeball where I want to have that patch go on when I sew it together. So I have a plate there and I'm just sort of measuring it out, and then I'm just putting a couple little marks of 1 inch or so from the edge. Okay, so I'm here in Silhouette Studio and I wanted to make a Christmas tree for that cute little patch that I was going to put on my placemat. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to grab something out of the Flexi Shapes panel. If you don't have this, don't worry, there's plenty of different kinds of trees in the Silhouette store. You could also probably just use a few triangles welded to make your own, but I thought I'd just grab a little tree here. And let's take this down to 4. And then you can drag these guys out. Until you get what you like. And then convert to path. Now I don't like this little indent thing here, so I'm just going to go there and delete those points. And I'm just going to play around with the edit points a little bit till I get more of what I'm looking for. And it doesn't have to be perfect because no tree looks exactly the same on both sides. I'm going to grab a rectangle and center it up for my base of my tree. And I thought it would look good to flare it out just a little bit. And let's color it so that I can kind of see what it looks like. That's not too bad, I guess. So if you remember, my little patch that I was going to put on the placemat was 3 by 3. So over here I have a box to represent my scrap of fabric. And I'm going to go ahead and let's see. I want to keep that, but let's do an internal offset, and I'm going to make that 0.25 because I'm going to be sewing around the edge of that patch, and I want my tree to be inside of that yet. So I'm just going to resize this. And maybe we'll make that just a little bit bigger yet. And I can delete the inside one because I don't really need it. And I'm going to go to Object, Modify, Subtract. And now I have my stencil made for my patch, and let's see, I had already cut one on here. I'm going to go to my send panel. Okay, so in this part of the video I have the stencil there, and you really can't see it in the video. I did have a better shot that I lost in, editing the video, but I just sort of taped that down, and now I'm going to go in here with my stencil brush and stencil that patch. And now you can see when I take it off that it's all done. And now I'm sort of placing it on there, and I'm taking it over to the sewing machine to sew it on. And like I said, I did edit this so that it would speed up a little bit, and I really can't sew that fast. And yes, this does have a back stitch, so a little bit newer, 1930s, I think, kind of machine. And some of them didn't have back stitches, but this one does. So now I'm just going in here and I'm pinning right sides together. I'm putting on the back of the placemat, and I'm going to sew around the edge, leaving an opening at the bottom so that I can get in there and turn it right side out when I'm finished. And my apologies for the little bit of jerkiness that's going on here with the video. I think has a little bit to do with my editing software, but I'm not sure. I'm kind of trying to troubleshoot and learn some things too, but this is just the really relaxing part of this machine. I wanted to try to have sound on for when I was sewing this, but it ended up sounding really tinny, and so I just had to edit it back out again. But this is such a neat machine to be able to sew on. I think my one regret was that I didn't go back in and use my rotary cutter to kind of trim up and match up the edges a little bit. I think I would have gotten a little bit neater finish when I did it, but it's okay. And I think this is the home stretch. And now I'm just going to back stitch a little bit and end off. So I took this over to the table, and now I'm just using my quilting ruler and the rotary cutter to go ahead and give this a little bit cleaner edge. I'm going to be top stitching over this in a little bit, and so before I turn it inside out, I wanted to clean up those edges a little bit and even it out. Like I said, that was something I wish I would have done. Just for your information, my original piece of this fabric started out as a 19 by 13, so that it ended up being like a 12 by 18 placemat. And so now I'm just turning this inside out, and I have to wrestle with it a little bit. But this is the part of the project where it kind of gets to be fun because you can see what it's going to look like. And I'm pulling out my ironing mat there because I'm going to give this a good press in a little bit. And I start to pull out my corners, and then I realize that I forgot to trim them, and so I go back in there and I give them a little bit of a trim. And I just take a pin and grab those corners. Now I'm back over at the machine, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to top stitch all the way around the edge, about, I don't know, I suppose about a 1/4 of an inch. And there, we're all done sewing, and I'm going to trim up some threads and give it one last press. I kind of fluff out the corners of that patch a little bit to make it look a little rougher. But there, it's all done, and don't you just love that cute little tree down in the bottom corner? So we're all finished with our placemat, and what do you think? Does that look a little bit farmhouse, and how do you like that little Christmas tree patch down in the bottom corner? I hope that you enjoyed this video. I thank you for watching today and joining me at Say It With Simplicity as I bring you more Silhouette Cameo tutorials and work on different kinds of projects that you can use your cutting machine for. If you like this video, I hope that you will come back again for more videos on my channel, and I hope that you'll have a great and crafty day. Thanks for stopping by today, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.